Troy, how are you doing?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Good, good. What heading into this last game in Saudi Arabia? What are some of the things you liked and some of the things you really need to improve upon, reflecting on the first three matches and heading into this last one?
Yeah, so it's good to see you, by the way. Thanks for joining. I would say that we've set a really good foundation. I think that we've set a good foundation while we've been here and really over the course of the first 3.5 weeks. And we're learning more about ourselves every single day. And through three matches, three competitive matches, again, I think we're learning more and more about the group. And the foundation has really been a lot having to do with how we want to be organized on the defensive side, how we want to try to be aggressive high up the field, which is a word that I've used before, and then in attacking transition, how we want to try to be really, really efficient and creative in those moments. And so, what I would say is the thing that I would like to see us improve on, which we're starting to build that next piece and next layer to the game model, is just trying to recognize when it's the time to keep that intensity high and try to really drive and go and create versus, all right, when's the time now with the ball to maybe start to build a little bit more and try to move the opponent. And that's, once again, these things to balance that out take a little bit of time. But the values that I went, that you've heard me say now probably since the first conversation, these values I think now are starting to be part of that foundation, which comes far before the style of play. And I can see the guys living up to these values with the right action, because that's always the name of the game. It's just what's the action behind everything you do. So that's just been, and it's from the top down, Steve. Like Christian Benteke and Matty Quick is our DPs and their experience. Like they just continue to impress me about the way that they go about their business every day in such a humble, hardworking way. They really set the tone for the rest of the group. And then you have guys like Steve Birnbaum, Russell Canals, Pedro Santos. It's just a tremendous environment for the next part of our roster, the young part of our roster, to really learn from every day.
How is Matty Peltola fit in on short notice as the season approaches and what he's brought and where do you think he fits in tactically?
Yeah, I think he's fit in extremely well. First, from a character and human side, he's just someone that is really, really professional. Very, I think he's a very good connector, which is so important for a player that plays his position. He wants to get to know everyone around him. He wants to try to bring them to life, and that's what he does on the field as well. He's not the loudest guy, but I think he amplifies a lot of what everyone around him does, and so he's someone that is a very intelligent player, and I'm excited to see he's young, but I'm excited to see how he competes and develops in our club.
And last question, just where things stand with the roster, whether you expect any significant changes between now and the opener in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, I would say that if we have the ability to add another player, that's something we're going to explore. I think that where our salary cap is for this season is going to be a difficult one. Um, that said, on the opposite side, part of the first 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks is also an evaluation period. I mean, everyone has to understand that I'm coming in with new ideas, and so some of the roster that's been here before, we're going to have to evaluate and make the best decision for not only the club but also for the players if it doesn't fit or match up. And so you could see some movement that way too. And that's there's nothing wrong with that. I think that's part of this process towards where we're going to shape our team in 2024.
Great. Thanks, Joe.
Yeah.
Next, we'll go to Jose Umana. Jose, you there? I think you're muted.
Hey Troy, can you hear me all right?
I can hear you. Yep.
Thanks for giving us the time. Just wanted to ask, how do you? This defense has played so many different formations, whether it's a three-back or four-back, the last 2.5 seasons. How have you seen the defense gelling, and for you, where do you see the tactical alignment for this defense, and how do you like them to play this upcoming season?
Yeah, thanks for that, Jose. I think that that's still to be determined. I think when you look at systems of play, it's very important for the players and for everyone to know that that's just a small tactic of the game. And from my standpoint, I do love to, and you saw that with my Red Bull teams. I like to give a consistency to that system of play that everyone knows their role and responsibility within. But it's also really beneficial when you can be flexible at the right time. And so we've kind of experimented with both as I to what I talked about with Steve just there, just continue to evaluate the roster and who fits where. But I think by the time that we kick off versus New England, we're going to have a really good understanding of a system of play that fits a lot of the principles and a lot of the behavior that we want to exhibit. That will give us the best chance to go and compete against a team like New England in the opener of the season. And but I wouldn't never say that we're going to be married to one system of play either, because that again is just a tactic of the game.
Thanks. Sure, I appreciate it.
Next, we'll go to Ryan Kiefer. Ryan, you there? I believe you're muted.
At this point, do you anticipate any sort of loan down to Ryan Bunton Loudon? And then the other question I had was looking at it from the outside and coming in, what kind of surprised you about this fund?
Ryan, I think I caught the first part of your question, but just to confirm, you were asking about potential loans to Loudon. Was that it?
Correct.
Yeah, that's something that, speaking with Ryan, he's open to. Number one, I think that's the most important thing. That's a reciprocal relationship, and it's a relationship that's not attached to any type of affiliation or partnership. I think we know that, but it's important to state that by proximity and by the previous relationship, clearly that's who we're going to speak to first, because if it benefits the player, if it benefits Ryan, and it makes sense, then we're going to be open to that. But it is a little bit different than an MLS Next Pro type loan, whenever it just is so fluid week to week. But that's something that I have a tremendous amount of respect for Ryan and the job he does. And if it makes sense again for him and for the player that we decide to send on loan, then we're going to speak about that. In regards to the 3.5 weeks that I've had working with these players. And again, I'd probably take it beyond just the players. I would say the staff too. There's a lot of really high quality people in our roster and our organization that have a tremendous appetite to make this thing a winner. And that's great to want that. But now what I've seen, the action behind that every day towards trying to make us better, is really encouraging. So if we're going to need that type of energy, if we're going to turn a page in a big way in 2024, and I alluded to this earlier, but it kind of starts from the top down, not only from myself, but some of the bigger name players in our roster. And when you see Christian Benteke, the way that he approaches every day, it's hard not for every other player and really every other staff member to say, okay, this guy at 33 is still hungry to go and prove something. And that's exactly his mentality. So that's just been enjoyable, a really enjoyable experience so far.
Thanks, Troy.
Next, we'll go back to Stephen Goff.
Troy, I wanted to check on Cam Jones and Brandon Parrish, see how they have fared and where things stand with them, and also just to check on Garrison Tubbs or anybody else.
So I heard Graham, Brandon, and then Garrison. Yeah. So for Graham and Brandon, just as I did the last time, just because there's nothing official with both of those guys. I mean, Graham has been with us and Brandon has as well. That's no problem to mention that. But just until there's anything official with both of those guys, I don't want to comment on those two. Garrison, he picked up, I think I mentioned this last time, but he picked up a little bit of a hamstring injury. So he's continuing to rehab that, and hopefully in the next week, 10 days, he'll start to get back on the field and get back into training in small parts.
Great. Any other injury concerns?
We do have a couple guys right now, but I'd say that it's probably too early to say that it's something that's long term. So couple guys that we're evaluating right now. And once we get back stateside, we'll have a lot better indication of what that looks like. But yeah, unfortunately, that's part of preseason. You know, you have these injuries, and we'll move forward as we always will, no matter what the injuries are.
Yeah, thanks, Troy.
Next, we'll go to James.
Good afternoon. So you've had the trip so far. I just want to know, what have you made of this Saudi Arabian trip, and how close are we being ready to the first game of the season?
Yeah, what I've made of it is really productive. I mean, very productive. I don't think that we've spent a day without having a lot of time on the field, off the field, with individual meetings, with team meetings, with exercises that don't have anything to do with football, but they involve an individual, you know, trying to help the rest of the group understand who they are. So we could be anywhere in the world and do that. And I mentioned that the last press conference, and we would, if we were anywhere else in the world, that's exactly what we'd be doing in order to answer the second part of your question, which is being prepared for the first week. I would say for the first week of the season, we are going to be in that process towards really trying to build the type of identity that we want. And it's not going to be perfect. You know, I hope we're going to be a long ways off from where we are at the end of 2024. And that's not just to buy time. That's just the truth. I mean, we've been together 3.5 weeks, and this is completely new, everything that we're implementing. And everyone through this productive preseason that I've seen has really bought into that. So that's the main thing I see. Again, just a real hunger to take the next step as a club, and that's what we're going to do. That's what we're working for.